So, welcome back to another episode of the Let's Chat Derbyshire podcast, where we talk about mental health, suicide prevention and neurodiversity. I'm Luke and I work in the mental health suicide prevention team for Derbyshire County Council's public health team. We hope you're doing well today, and today we're joined by Holly from First Steps Eating Disorder. Holly, how are you out of 10?
Hi Luke. I'm probably around a 7 out of 10 today. Feeling quite nervous. I've never done a podcast before, but looking forward to getting the message out about ARFID.
That's great. No, brilliant. Yeah, and it's fine. Hopefully we'll get you a bit more relaxed as we go. But yeah, I still get nervous doing these, so I wouldn't worry.
Okay.
Just to start off then, if you wouldn't mind just giving a bit of introduction of who you are, who's First Steps, and what you do as an organisation.
So I'm Holly, I'm the Services Director at First Steps ED, and I've worked at First Steps ED for over 7 years now. We're a specialist eating disorder service that supports anybody impacted by an eating disorder. So you don't need to have a diagnosed eating disorder either, and we offer support to parent carers, family and siblings and friends as well. That's
great. Oh, that's brilliant. It's lovely to hear. That's such a range to offer. So today we're going to be talking about ARFID. I think it's definitely a growing thing that we're becoming aware of as a public health team. Yeah. If you wouldn't mind just giving a bit of an introduction of what is ARFID.
Yeah. So ARFID is an acronym for Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. It's an eating disorder where somebody will restrict or avoid certain foods. Okay. But unlike other eating disorders, they won't restrict or avoid those foods to try and lose weight. Or because of body image concerns.
So how common is ARFID?
So we know that in the UK there's around 2.2 million people struggling with an eating disorder, and around 5% of those people are struggling with ARFID. Yeah. And we expect it to be higher than 5% just because they're the ones that have got a diagnosis. Okay. And a lot of people who come for support don't have a diagnosis of ARFID.
What are the 3 things that are linked to ARFID?
So there's sensory sensitivity, might be a driver. So somebody, for example, might not like the texture or the taste or even the look of a certain food, so they'll avoid that food. Another type is around aversive consequences, so being frightened that somebody may choke or they may feel sick after that food, so they may avoid that food for that reason. And then the third kind of type of ARFID, or the third driver, is just that somebody will have a lack of interest around eating and just not feel very, very hungry, not feel the hunger cues that other people do.
That's really interesting. I'm hearing a lot more around people with autism and ARFID go hand in hand. Is that something you're noticing? I'm guessing around the sensitivity side of food. Also, a lot of foods can taste very different, even though it's the same food, which probably has an effect on it as well. Is that something you're noticing?
Yeah, we notice that around a third of people who have ARFID are also autistic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are neurodivergent. Yep. You can also have ARFID and be neurotypical as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What are some of the signs people may look for then? It seems quite a broad range of, I guess, things that can affect ARFID. Is there any specific signs that maybe family can look out for or people can look out for in themselves?
Yeah, if somebody's eating the same foods items daily, and somebody may not be willing to try certain new foods as well. Somebody might be quite nervous or anxious around meal times, or feeling quite controlled or limited around their eating, so they may not be able to go to different social groups and go to different restaurants and cafes because they're so aware that their comfortable food isn't there. Yeah.
When, I guess, from an age range, can this come in at any point, or is it normally noticed in younger people and then it just continues? Or
So it is more common and develops more in your infancy and childhood. However, that is not just the sole case. People can develop ARFID in adulthood as well.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. If someone has noticed maybe some of the signs and stuff, is there any advice you'd give around maybe self-maintenance of it if it's not at the stage where they may need maybe some more complex support?
Offer one-to-one support to
Great.
somebody struggling with ARFID, whether diagnosed or not, as I mentioned earlier. We are really passionate about offering this support because we recognise that there's not many areas that do offer that support at the moment. And we offer one-to-one support. So it looks different. So I can't kind of give you what one support would look like to the next. But something that is recommended is gradual exposure. So we look at incorporating different foods when somebody feels quite safe and comfortable, probably in a nice calm environment, when they're more likely to be able to try those new foods.
Okay, that's really interesting. So someone does feel like they need that support. What does that journey sort of look like from them getting in touch? 'Cause obviously it sounded like that each person will have a different support package. It's not one shoe fits all with this. So what are some of those avenues which could support someone through it?
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to reach out for support, they could make a referral. You don't need to have a professional to make a referral into First Step CD. You can do a self-referral. We'll book them in for an initial assessment and find out exactly what they'd like. We offer that one-to-one support, but for some people they don't need or want that one-to-one support. So we also have a workshop where other people who are struggling with the same thing can come together and can kind of validate and understand one another, empathise with one another, and people can get advice from one another. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So I guess once they're in the service, when you do that initial assessment, if ARFID may not be the only sort of eating disorder there, they'll still get support maybe if there's something else that they need addressing,
Yeah, no, definitely. And we also recognise that those struggling with ARFID or ARFID-like traits are more likely to have another comorbidity as well, so they struggle with anxiety. So we do offer, it's a holistic approach, so we'll offer support to everything that they're struggling with.
And I'm guessing you may be able to correct me here though, it doesn't just affect like one sex, does it? This affects everyone and can affect anyone, can't
It's like all eating disorders, they don't discriminate, and that's the exact same for ARFID. It doesn't discriminate. It's been a diagnosable eating disorder since 2013.
Wow.
And it is recognised. The research does show that it's mainly common in boys and men, but actually we get at First Steps all kinds of people, and that's why we offer that support to everybody.
That's really interesting that it shows that it's in, more in men than everyone. And I was speaking to Danny about male body image, we touched on it a bit, but I still think there's such a stigma, isn't there, around men and boys coming forward around eating disorders.
Oh no, definitely.
And I guess it's the same sort of signs for them to look for than anyone else, isn't it, if they are noticing patterns of the same sort of food being eaten.
Yeah, and that anxiety, I think it's the anxiety that is really crippling for them. They notice that they can't do exactly what their friends are doing or going out with their friends, and they're missing out, and it's that impact on their life that it's having. Like all eating disorders, ARFID's exactly the same. It's got a massive impact on our service users who are struggling with it. So it's just important to validate and make sure that we're offering that support.
Yeah, no, and I think it's not picky eating though either, is it? I think before people would just stigmatise it around it's picky eating, and it's not, is it at all?
No. A lot of our service users come through and they've said that they've gone to the GP before, they've been labelled as a picky or fussy eater, they've been told it's just a phase that they'll grow out of, and that is definitely not the case. Like I said, this is a diagnosable eating disorder, and it needs to be taken as seriously as other eating disorders are.
So I guess for any parents that either want more information or maybe you can give some more information now, supporting maybe a child with this and stuff, what sort of advice you'd give to maybe a parent?
Firstly, I would say validate their loved one, how they're feeling, what they're going through, because it's a real struggle. Having that patience and trying to work together as a team. Something I do recommend to parents who've come before is if they're getting frustrated with their loved one, and struggling to understand why their loved one can't eat that specific food, I normally recommend that they think about their biggest fear. So, for example, mine's a spider. And if somebody put a spider down on my plate and told me to eat around it, I'd find that really difficult. And sometimes just thinking about that from our perspective, thinking about our fear, it can sometimes make the parent or carer understand or empathise a little bit more with their loved one.
That's really, really interesting. I was made aware before that there's a guide you've done for parents.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Would you be able to just maybe give a bit more around what the guide is and how it can be utilised by parents, carers?
Yeah, so the parent and carer guide just talks about different environments, different triggers, thinking about how best we can support the loved one, when's the best time to introduce a new food and how can we do that gradually so it's not too overwhelming. We also offer parent carer support for those who specifically have a loved one who is struggling with ARFID. So we've got a parent carer ARFID workshop, and we also offer one-to-one support to parents and carers as well.
That's really interesting. Is there any specific foods, I guess, that you sort of see as a common theme that people stick with, or I don't know, or can it be, anything? Can it just be someone has that sort of standard favourite sort of food that how can it look? I guess I know it's different for every person and stuff, but is there any themes that you sort of see coming through?
Yeah, so as you said, it is different for everybody, but there is a common theme of kind of beige foods being a little bit more of a comfortable food for certain individuals. And so they might eat chicken nuggets and chips and things like that. And we normally find that fruit and veg that can taste different. Even if you're eating raspberries, one raspberry can taste different to another raspberry. So that can sometimes be a bit of a trickier food for someone to try. We do try and understand what our service users want to try as well. We don't force them into eating kind of new foods, and I think that's an important message to maybe tell the parent carers as well. Sit down with your loved one, find out what foods they want to try. Or has caught their eye, and then have a think about how you can expose them gradually to that food.
That's really interesting. I think, the chicken nuggets one and stuff like that is, you know what you're going to get, I think, don't you? It doesn't matter sort of what it is. Every time it will look the same and it will taste the same. And I can imagine someone, who's neurodivergent and stuff, having that routine of it knowing the same.
Yeah. But for someone who is also struggling with ARFID, may also need their chicken nuggets to be cooked in a very specific way. And if it's overcooked or undercooked, that they won't like it, or if it's even cooked in a different oven to what they usually have, that can also be really triggering.
That's really interesting. I can imagine it would be quite hard for them. It must have knock-on effects then to increased isolation, not wanting to go out. And then leading to maybe, like you said, other eating disorders, though. And it must be quite scary when someone, is trapped in that.
Definitely. It's really lonely. It's really isolated. And like you say, if it's a young person who's at school, they'll have to go and eat in a different area because they don't like people kind of watching them, or maybe they feel that people are watching them. Or some people might make comments, harmless comments, but sometimes it can be quite triggering. If someone's mentioning that, oh, you're always eating that, it can be quite difficult when that's a big struggle of yours. Yeah.
For anyone listening who maybe noticing this in themselves, is there any, I guess, advice or message you'd like to just, get across to them that may help?
Yeah, just be really gentle with yourself. This is an eating disorder or disordered eating behaviours that you're struggling with. Do reach out for support. We are here at First Step CD for anybody struggling with ARFID-like traits or any eating disorder. So do reach out, support is there. But like I say, do be gentle on yourself and don't be too hard and critical of yourself.
Yeah. If someone does want to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that? We'll obviously be sharing links and everything like that to it. Is it just on the website, or can they phone up? What's the best way for someone to get in touch?
Yeah, so the best way is probably doing a referral through our website.
Cool.
And I know you'll send the link out afterwards, which is brilliant. But if somebody wants to have a call beforehand, that's absolutely fine as well. And we can send out our parent carer guides and a bit of resources as well through our Talk ED website as well.
That's brilliant, lovely. And for the support people have, is it just here, or is it at other locations? Is it online? Is it just a bit of everything?
Yeah, so we try and be as inclusive as possible at First Step. So some people prefer face-to-face support, and that's brilliant. We'll go into schools, or we can support in the office. And others actually prefer virtual, and that's absolutely fine as well. We offer Microsoft support via Microsoft Teams as well. Wow. All our workshops are online, so anybody can attend, and they are all after school time as well, so it won't kind of affect schools and whatnot.
No, that's great. And then I guess for people that are older, like the parents and stuff, can they get any advice anytime? It doesn't have to just be when the appointment is and stuff. If they need a bit of guidance, they can just get in touch.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've got our parent carer workshop, which is a 4-week workshop, and that's in the evening for parent carers. But we do a drop-in on the first Saturday of each month, and we also have that one-to-one support. So we try and be, like I say, as inclusive as possible, because we recognise that eating disorders don't just impact the person struggling with the eating disorder, but also parent carers as well.
Is there any other final things you might just want to add around someone taking care of themselves if they are, trying to make that step to try new foods?
Yeah, I think something that we would try and suggest is to maybe set yourself some gentle goals, some realistic goals. So it's not necessarily eating that food that you're not very comfortable with, but even having it on the table so it's on eyesight, and then bringing it closer, maybe feeling that food, thinking about how it may taste as well, or how it might smell. That'd be a really good goal to set, and something that hopefully you'll be able to achieve. We are here that ARFID is a really serious eating disorder. Even if haven't got a diagnosis but got some of the traits, it can be really crippling and isolating, as we've discussed. And so I think just if you are struggling, please know that we're here. But also thank you for having us on here to talk about it, because I think we need to raise more awareness of it, and more needs to be done.
Definitely, I still think there's still that stigma attached to it, isn't there? And people still feel, scared, like any mental health support really, though, isn't it, to reach out for it. And this is just one of the massive sort of array of support that's available for free for people in Derby and Derbyshire. So like you said, if anyone is scared of reaching out and stuff, there's ways that they can get in touch with maybe out people knowing to get that initial ball moving.
100%. Even if it's just a little bit of guidance, that's absolutely fine.
Take it there. No, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
So you've been listening to the Let's Chat Derbyshire podcast. It's been great having you on, Holly. Honestly, you've smashed it. It's been lovely. If you're not already, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on Facebook at DCC MHSP. We'll be sharing more information around ARFID, and again, from our previous episode around male body image. So do give us a like and follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Certain foods, because they are I've lost it. Oh, God.
We'll try again. Let's try again. Don't worry.